dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle. No script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal, we don't hold back. Voices collide where ideas ignite. You tuned in, now step into the fight. This is more than talk, this is thought that counts. Welcome to the feed where the signal mounts.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a fascinating plunge into a recent Welcome to the Dusty Show #OpenPanel video transcript. It's from OTW Live on YouTube.
Right.
Think of this as your shortcut to understanding a pretty sprawling online discussion. It covers, well, everything from internet drama and community spirit to economic jitters, even, surprisingly, construction materials.
A real mix.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's try and unpack this. It's quite a diverse range of topics.
Definitely. And this transcript gives us a really interesting window into how these online conversations work, doesn't it?
It really does.
You see how fast things shift, from personal stuff, grievances, to like broader societal issues, all happening in real time between these personalities.
Yeah, it's fluid.
What's compelling is just how many different threads pop up from just this one source.
Absolutely. So let's kick off with some, well, classic online conflict. There are these allegations about a Chris Ruff. Apparently, he was bragging about getting the main speaker's channel taken down. But, okay, here's where it gets particularly noteworthy.
Okay.
The speaker found out that Streamlabs, that platform lots of creators use for streams and donations.
Yeah, very common.
Well, Streamlabs had somehow accessed their channel and, get this, published an unlisted video.
Whoa. Okay, that's a bit concerning.
Yeah.
It really highlights a potential, vulnerability
Right.
with all these interconnected online services. You give permissions to third-party apps, maybe thinking they're just helpful.
Yeah, for managing stuff.
Exactly. But it can lead to unexpected access, unintended consequences. It's a good reminder, really, for anyone online to check those permissions now and then.
Good point. And there's more. The speaker also suspects this government official, JJ, who apparently had their passwords and IP address before that's the unique internet connection number,
Right.
might have shared this info with Ruff, which, that raises some serious questions about data security.
Big questions, yeah. If that's true, that's quite something. A real tangled situation.
It definitely sounds like it. Now, moving beyond the drama, the speaker also talks about making a pretty significant shift in their content.
Ah, yes. The content strategy.
Yeah, they moved away from videos about gang activity. Yeah. Apparently, there were monetization hurdles.
Meaning trouble getting ads, basically. YouTube's rules.
Right. So they shifted to news commentary, which they felt was, safer, more stable.
Well, that pivot really shows a key challenge for creators online, doesn't it?
How so?
It's this constant balancing act, pursuing what you're interested in versus the economic reality and the platform rules.
Finding something sustainable.
Exactly. It's this ongoing negotiation. And that anecdote they shared, discussing Trump in a chat with people involved in gang activity.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It just underscores the really diverse perspectives and different priorities you find, even in these niche online groups.
It really does. And, despite some of that conflict stuff, there's also this really strong sense of community that comes through.
Oh, definitely.
The speaker sounds genuinely grateful for viewer support, talks about membership, calls them powdered dusty memberships.
Right.
And direct donations through Cash App, PayPal, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they even mentioned specific donations being gathered for a viewer, Chuck, in Tennessee. His house got hit hard by flooding.
Yeah, that part really stood out. It highlights the powerful role these online communities can play, offering real, tangible support when things get tough.
It's not just talk.
No, exactly. That direct call for help and people apparently stepping up.
Yeah.
It shows real connections can form in these digital spaces, a sense of responsibility.
Which brings us to Chuck's situation, which sounds, really awful.
Yeah, it does.
His finished basement in Tennessee just devastated by major flooding.
They mentioned burned out pumps.
Yeah, the whole basement ruined, lost items. Even mentioned an expensive-ass chicken coop. You really feel for the guy.
Absolutely. And, this situation brings up an important point about vulnerability to unexpected disasters.
Like insurance.
Exactly. The speaker, who mentioned having a background in loans,
Right, loan origination.
made the point that Chuck probably didn't have specific flood insurance because his house isn't in an official flood zone.
Oh, wow.
So
Sure.
he's likely looking at massive out-of-pocket costs to fix everything. It just shows the limits of standard insurance for these kinds of unexpected events outside those designated high-risk areas.
That's incredibly tough. And they briefly mentioned other floods too, right? Across the central U.S., South Central.
Yeah, they did. And even referenced at a Houston freeze a while back, the one that burst pipes everywhere.
Right, right. It sort of puts Chuck's situation in a broader context of, extreme weather hitting different places.
It does. These comparisons kind of underscore how frequent and severe these unusual weather events are becoming. And maybe how our safety nets, like insurance, aren't always keeping up, especially outside those known disaster zones.
Definitely something to think about. Okay, shifting gears again. The conversation then jumped to the stock market.
The big drop.
Yeah, a significant drop, described as one of the largest ever.
Third largest in history was the claim, causing some jitters, understandably.
You bet.
Yep.
Trillions of dollars lost, they were saying. And this sparked a bit of back and forth on, what to do, investment strategies.
Yeah, what's interesting there is how quickly this huge global economic thing turns into individual chatter about, okay, what do I do with my money?
Right. Like, should you buy the dip in crypto?
Exactly. That idea of buying when prices fall, hoping for a rebound, versus others saying, whoa, hold on, market's too volatile, be cautious.
That's different risk levels.
Reflects the diverse financial situations and, risk tolerance of the people in the chat. Very typical online discussion, really.
And it even touched on politics a bit, Trump's tariffs.
And their potential economic impact. There was an interesting Canadian perspective thrown into.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Basically arguing that Canada might not be as dependent on the U.S. economically as, perhaps, the U.S. assumes, especially for key resources.
Interesting angle.
Yeah, it brings up that whole complex web of global economics, doesn't it?
Yeah.
National self-reliance versus international trade, sharing resources.
Like energy.
Yeah, things like hydro, natural gas, LNG, the crucial stuff. That Canadian viewpoint was kind of challenging a maybe U.S.-centric take on that relationship.
Okay. Here's where it gets particularly noteworthy. Again, just the sheer breadth of stuff they're connecting. Global economics, personal finance, trade policy.
All in one stream.
Right. Then they pivoted again to online conduct. Mentioned a possible shadow ban.
Yes, on the speaker's channel after it got monetized.
What exactly is a shadow ban again?
It's like your content becomes less visible. Maybe it doesn't show up in feeds or searches much, but you don't get an official notification saying you're suspended. It's kind of murky.
Right, less transparent. And they suspected it might be because they mentioned medication.
That was the speculation, yeah. Which really makes you think about those platform content guidelines. They can be unpredictable.
Yeah, definitely.
And it shows the challenges creators face trying to figure out those sometimes opaque algorithms and moderation policies. Certain topics, health, medication can be sensitive and trigger restrictions unexpectedly.
Which can really impact your reach.
Absolutely. Your ability to communicate, reach your audience, earn a living. It's all tied up in it.
And it wasn't just potential shadow bans. There was a real-time thing in the chat too, right? Someone got banned.
Yeah, someone tried some cross-promotion, like plugging their own channel or something. And they got a temporary ban, 24 hours for Wyatt, I think was mentioned.
Yeah.
Which then sparked a little debate about, online etiquette.
Like what's okay and what's not.
Exactly. Those unwritten rules, the blurry lines around self-promotion within someone else's community space.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
It really highlights how norms get negotiated and enforced in these online spaces. Sometimes it's official moderation, sometimes it's just social pressure. But that ban shows the tension, right? Promoting yourself versus keeping the focus of the stream.
Makes sense. Now, amidst all these serious topics, there were also some moments that felt, very raw and unfiltered.
Part of the live stream territory.
Like that viewer suggestion about Chuck's autistic son and the flooding, which was, thankfully, retracted really fast and addressed.
Yeah, that was awkward, but handled. It does give you a glimpse into the unedited nature of these live chats.
Totally.
And that kind of interaction, it does bring up questions about boundaries in online talk.
Yeah.
These spaces feel immediate, connected, but they also risk insensitive comments.
Sure.
But the quick retraction and the focus staying on supporting Chuck, it does show some self-awareness, maybe, A community trying to keep things supportive?
Yeah, perhaps. And the speaker later reflecting on their own past online behavior, mentioning alcohol.
Right, regrets about things said or done online while drinking?
It just underscores how digital interactions can have a long tail, and the importance of thinking about your online footprint.
Sure. What happens online can stick around.
Yeah.
And they even touched on older online drama, right? Long-running feuds in the YouTube community.
Yeah, Drama Dome and stuff going back years.
It's like there's this whole digital history that keeps influencing the present.
It really is.
Shows the emotional investment people have in these spaces. Things that seem trivial from outside can feel huge and last a long time for those involved.
Absolutely. Then, kind of out of left field, the whole conversation swung towards something super practical.
Oh, yeah.
Sparked by Chuck's flooded basement, alternative construction materials.
Ah, okay. From flooding to building science.
Exactly. They started brainstorming ideas, plastic trusses, concrete homes.
Concrete homes. Interesting. Like printed ones?
Yeah, they mentioned 3D printed concrete, precast, also things like Blue Max, those foam forms for concrete, and even hempcrete.
Wow, hempcrete too.
All aimed at finding more flood-resilient ways to build.
That's actually fascinating, how a really immediate personal crisis like Chuck's basement floods
Yeah.
leads to this bigger discussion about innovation and building better. Exploring alternatives shows some real forward thinking, a desire for more sustainable, disaster-resistant housing.
It really does. Though they also shared that cautionary tale about a soft concrete panel collapsing when they tried to lift it.
Oof. Yeah, that's important.
Emphasizing, you need the right mix, proper reinforcement like rebar to make sure it's actually strong and safe.
Absolutely crucial. It highlights that balance, right? Exploring cool new tech,
Yeah.
but sticking to fundamental engineering to make sure it's safe and lasts. Innovation needs that solid, practical foundation.
Well said. And finally, just scattered throughout the transcript, you get these little moments, other online folks popping in and out of the stream.
Yeah, characters.
Some jokes, inside references probably, mentions of current events like anti-Trump protests. It just paints this picture of a really dynamic, busy, sometimes unpredictable live streaming world.
So what does this all mean? Well, it means we've basically seen a slice of the internet in action, right?
Seems like it.
A place where personal stuff slams right into global events, where you see generosity and community right next to unfiltered chat and old dramas. And it's a collective trying to figure out its own dynamics while dealing with outside challenges.
So what does this all mean? I guess in this deep dive, we've covered a lot. From online fights and weird platform access issues to genuine community support when disaster hits. We looked at money worries through stock drops and trade talk and even got into new building materials.
And focusing on just this one kind of sprawling online chat, we actually found some surprising connections between topics that seemed totally separate at first glance.
Yeah, you wouldn't think they'd link up.
The digital world, like this transcript shows, it's this really complex, always changing mirror reflecting so many parts of, well, our wider society.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this is just one snapshot, one stream, one community. Imagine how many conversations like this are happening online constantly.
All day, every day.
Each with its own dramas, its own wins, its own weird turns. It really makes you think about just how huge and constantly moving this whole digital landscape is.
Which maybe raises a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Think about the resilience you often see in these online communities. Even with all the conflict, the missteps, these digital spaces often become really vital support networks. And they're platforms for sharing information incredibly fast, always adapting to whatever technology and society throw at them next.
Mic check, one voice, one spark. From the shadows to the bright, let's light the dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle, no script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal, we don't hold back. Voices collide where ideas ignite. You tuned in, now step into the fight. This is more